Sam and Rachel had heard the rumors about the Forgotten Farmhouse at the edge of town. The locals told strange stories about it, how no one had seen the owners in years, how the house seemed to disappear from view if you weren't paying attention. But it was more than just abandoned. There was something off about it, something unnatural. The old-timers claimed that strange lights flickered in the windows at night. Shadows moved behind the curtains, and there were whispers carried on the wind if you got too close. "Let's check it out," Sam said, practically jumping out of the car when they reached the property. His excitement was evident, but Rachel wasn't so sure. "I don't know, Sam. There's something about this place." "Stop being such a baby," Sam teased. "It's just an old farmhouse. What's the worst that can happen?" Rachel hesitated, but then followed him as he led the way up the overgrown driveway. The house sat there, imposing and silent, its once white paint chipped and faded, leaving only traces of the pale hue beneath a blanket of creeping ivy. The windows were dirty, but you could still make out the outlines of something, figures, moving behind them. "Doesn't that seem weird?" Rachel asked, her voice uncertain. Sam shrugged. "It's just the wind, or maybe the trees. Come on, let's take a look inside." As they reached the porch, the wooden steps creaked beneath their feet, groaning as though the house was waking up. The front door stood ajar, a thin sliver of darkness beyond it. The smell hit them first, the heavy, musty scent of decay and old wood mixed with something that almost resembled the odor of rotting meat. They stepped inside, the old wooden floorboards groaning under their weight. The air felt thick, as if the house had been holding its breath for years. A faint whisper of cold air brushed past them, making Rachel shiver. "Hello?" Sam called out, but his voice was swallowed by the silence. "Anyone home?" There was no answer, but the house seemed to respond to their presence, the air becoming dense and unsettling. Sam and Rachel moved through the main floor, peering into rooms that were long abandoned. Dust and cobwebs had claimed every corner, and the furniture had long since decayed into rotting piles of wood. Then in the distance they heard it, faint footsteps, slow, measured and deliberate. Rachel froze, her heart pounding. "Did you hear that?" "Probably just rats," Sam said, though his voice wavered slightly. But the footsteps grew louder, closer, until the air seemed to vibrate with the sound of something heavy moving in the darkness. Rachel's breath caught in her throat as she turned, eyes searching the shadows, but there was nothing there. Sam reached for the old staircase, the wood creaking underfoot. "I'm going upstairs. I want to see what's up there." Rachel followed, though the hairs on her neck stood on end. As they ascended the staircase, the air grew heavier, colder, and the whispering noise started again, a soft murmur as if something was speaking in low tones from the far end of the hallway above. At the top of the stairs, Sam pushed open a door at random. The room beyond was empty, save for a large mirror that covered the wall. At first, Rachel didn't think much of it, but then she saw it. Someone standing behind them in the reflection. She spun around, her heart leaping into her throat. There was no one there. "Sam!" Rachel whispered, but he didn't hear her. He was staring at the mirror, his face drawn tight in confusion. "What the hell?" Sam muttered, walking closer. The reflection in the mirror was different. It didn't just show the two of them standing in the room. It showed figures standing just behind them, faces obscured by shadows, their forms tall and skeletal. Suddenly the figures moved, stepping towards Sam and Rachel in the reflection, their limbs jerking in unnatural, horrifying movements. "Sam!" Rachel screamed. "We need to go now!" Sam turned to look at her, but as he did, his face paled. "What the hell is happening? They're not..." Before he could finish, the door slammed shut behind them with a force that made the whole house shudder. They were trapped. The whispering voices grew louder, now all around them, murmuring words they couldn't understand. The temperature in the room dropped. their breath misting in the cold air. Suddenly there was a loud bang, followed by a growling noise, something deep and unearthly, like a beast prowling just beyond the door. Sam grabbed the door handle, but it was locked. "We need to get out. Now!" They heard the sound of footsteps again, but these weren't human footsteps. They were the heavy, dragging steps of something massive, moving through the hall outside the room. The walls began to vibrate, and the sound of whispers turned into screams, distorted and shrill. "Sam, it's coming!" Rachel screamed, pushing at the door. In that moment, the floor beneath them seemed to shift, the ground groaning as if it was alive. The room began to close in on them, the walls tightening, the darkness thickening. Then the door banged open with a violent force, throwing Sam and Rachel across the room. When they looked up, they saw something. A dark figure standing in the hallway. It was too tall, its body stretching unnaturally, limbs twisted in grotesque ways. The air around it seemed to shimmer, like it was bending the light itself. Rachel screamed as the figure stepped forward, its hands reaching for them. They scrambled to their feet, running blindly, but the house had turned into a labyrinth. Every hallway they ran down, every door they opened, led them in circles as if the house was changing around them. Finally, after what felt like hours, they stumbled out of the farmhouse, gasping for breath, their hearts pounding in their chests. But when they looked back, the farmhouse was gone. In its place was only an empty field, stretching out under the fading light of day. They never spoke of what they saw again, but every so often, when the wind blew just right, they could hear the faint whispering of voices, calling them back to the farmhouse that was no longer there. Have you ever found yourself hopelessly lost, confused, and feeling like you were being watched? Beware, there are terrifying and mysterious beings that few have ever seen and lived to talk about. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and follow us for more. Join us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for more bone-chilling chronicles, if you dare.